and gas industry. Our key insights will be given by an oil and gas veteran and a former SP Africa Regional Director, Mr. Anthony Ogunkoya. Please, Mr. Anthony Ogunkoya. He's indeed a veteran, you can see. Please make some noise for him.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here in Ghana today. The last time I was here, I probably think it's something like 2016 or so. And when I got the invitation from Riverson to come to this event, that was a long time ago, during the SP conference. I said, okay, I'm going to be here. And I'm so glad I came here. I'm impressed with what I've seen done in Ghana over the last 10 years. This is fantastic. Congratulate yourself. And again, I tell you something that most of you didn't know, is that for a long time, we've been searching to have an African regional director coming from Ghana. And thank God you have Riverson Opong, PhD, as going to be the next African regional director. So congratulations again. So last week when I was planning to come in here, I spoke with the former president, Egbati Momo, that I was coming here, and he sent his good wishes to everybody. He's in the UK and couldn't come around. I'm sure if he was in Nigeria, he would have come here to see you guys. So, let's get to business. I'm really impressed with what I've heard since yesterday. And honestly, this morning rather, it looks like yesterday, I agree fully with what has been presented. And I'm more than impressed with what Simon said about, here in the oil industry or in Africa, we are not going to leave all our reserves in the ground and say we are going through a transition and we're going to forget all about the oil. That's a joke. Honestly, it's a joke. We're going to produce the oil, but we try our best to make sure that we don't damage the environment. Because we have to lift our people from poverty. More than 700 million Africans don't have electricity. And that's a fact. More than 100 million in Nigeria don't have electricity. And then we are going to abandon our gas, we are going to abandon our oil because of one transition. And for example, in the last 10 years, what's happened to carbon footprint? Asia have tripled their carbon footprint. Africa, we've remained the same. For 10 years, we didn't increase. We are not the people damaging the environment. But we take the brunt. We contribute only 2 to 3% of the carbon, emission. 2 to 3%, that's all we contribute. But what happened 2 weeks ago? We lost 300 people in Tanzania and Kenya due to flooding, effect of the climate change, which we did not cause. And then we should abandon everything and then follow. I think that's a joke. Honestly. I know we should face reality. People go around and attend the COP conferences and say a lot of good things. They're going to give Africa money to develop. Nobody has contributed nothing to us. Nothing has come from all those conferences, I'm sorry to say. So, in your advert, you said I'm a veteran. I don't feel like a veteran. I feel like one of you guys, yeah? Though I've been an SP member for 47 years. Can you see that in my face? I still feel I'm young and still want to go ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure being here. I'm not going to bore you with additional speeches. We've had a lot of fine speeches from all our presenters and discussants today. I love it. We have to innovate. From 100 or 200 years, You remember in those days, I watched a movie of recent ago. Do you know that the Indians, how do they find out that they found oil? They drill a well and there is a blowout. When there is blowout, then they found oil. That was the way in the US. Okay? And then later, we started applying innovations, new technologies. Schlumberger brought, when was that? Nearly 100 years ago. Oil line. Next year, 100 years. They brought in all the geophysical instruments, to measure resistivity, gamma ray, and all that. And then we started identifying oil everywhere. And then we started innovating until in the late 60s, early 70s. We had MWDs, LWDs, and then real-time data coming. And for me, we can't stop from innovation. We have to continue. Innovation, innovation, innovation. And like the other group said, the other panel, data, good data, real-time data, we have all of them. With artificial intelligence, the sky's the limit. And it's not going to take our job. And for petroleum engineers, young ones, I assure you, the most important thing you need to do is to be good. Be the best. You will get a job, a good job. Or if not, you start a good job for yourself. Let me give you a personal experience. My son is going to be 40 next October 2nd. He read artificial intelligence in Imperial College in 2004 or 2003. And he graduated. He went and did masters in finance at a Cass Business School. Because everybody in Imperial College, though they are really engineering, they want to be investment bankers. So what did he do? He went and joined an investment banker, Barclays Capital, and then went to a Swiss company. After 5 years, he called me and said, "Dad, this is a joke. I don't have a life. I work from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I have to work with the stock exchange in London and the stock exchange in New York. I'm quitting." I said, "That's left. What do you want to do?" He said that, when I was in university, I was the social secretary of the African Caribbean Society. And what were you doing as a social secretary? We were organizing parties. I said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go and organize parties." This is a guy I spent more than £20,000 a year in Imperial College for each year. And even before then, he went to Godolphin School in Scotland. Then it was about £23,000 a year, secondary school. And now the guy says, "I want to organize a party." I said, "Well, you're on your own." But so what happened was that in 2019, he left the bank. He started his own nightclub to organize parties. Okay? And then there was COVID. Everything stopped. But June 2020, he had his first outing, and he called me in September. "Dad, I made £250,000. He was earning £6,000 in Barclays Capital as an investment banker. In 2022, end of year 2022, he made £1.7 million. Now he has 3 clubs in London. 3 clubs in London. He read artificial intelligence. And when I call him and I ask him, "What are you doing?" He said, "Daddy, I'm designing a menu." I'm telling you, I call him, "I'm designing a menu." I say, "I love designing menus." So, just a word of encouragement to you young guys, you can be anything you want to be. So don't worry about your degree. You will get there. Just have faith. Thank you.
Please, one more time for him. Big one for him. Don't worry about anything. Please, you can be anything you want to be. It can be anything you want to be. If I don't even go to the school anymore. All right, but that's a really good one. So that sets the tone for a very good conversation on multi-generational experiences to drive innovation in the oil and gas industry in Ghana. So I'll call our moderator for the next session, and she will call a panelist. Our moderator is somebody we've seen earlier. She's done a lot today, and she's going to moderate the last session. Please help me welcome once again, Sheena Owusu-Ansah. Sound check.
Hi. Usually after lunch, everyone is feeling so slow and all that. So I'm going to disturb all of you right now. I know we had some good laugh with the party organization story, but let's get up, please, for some few seconds respectfully. Yeah. Let's shake our hands. Yeah. And throw your feet so that you feel a bit alive for the next section. Please don't sleep on us, we beg. We'll be done soon, and then you can all go home. Yeah, okay. Please have a seat. Thank you. Right. So this next section, we'll be talking about, first of all, this panel is a diversity and inclusion panel. Let all know. And most times when we talk about D&I, most people think it's only about gender. But D&I covers a whole lot of other topics, and one of this is also generational differences in our workplaces. So you have people from different generations, and they need to find a way to work together in order to advance and also achieve the goals of the company. So today we're going to talk about leveraging multigenerational experience to drive innovation in Africa's oil and gas industry. And we have experts from different areas who will be taking us through. Let me just call them, for lack of time, quickly on stage. To join us to discuss this, we have Dr. Victor Ekpenyon, CEO of Kenyon International West Africa Limited. Also joining us for this is Etta Agbo, MD, CEO of Sequest E&P Services Limited. Earlier on, we referred to Mr. Anthony as a veteran. He says he's not a veteran. So we have somebody who is almost close to Gen Z or so to join us on stage, Akosia Jan Bando, who is a subsea well integrity engineer with Talo, Ghana. And then in the midst of all the different generations, when there's conflict and all that, you need somebody who will bring them together to try and leverage that and settle all the differences and make them work. So we have someone who is an HR, in the person of Samuel Stephen Lee Eje Lai, HR manager, Ghana National Gas Company. Okay, so last but certainly not the least, we have someone, we're supposed to have Dr. Mr. Kweku Boateng, who is the Director of Local Content at the Petroleum Commission, but the CEO had him at the last minute to chair a meeting for him. So in his stead, we'll have Fifi Otu, who also works at the Petroleum Commission. Thank you all very much. You're all looking good. So we've taking a lot of time already, and so we'll not waste too much time in our discussion. So I'll start off with Dr. Ekpenyo. Usually in all this discussion about the different generations that we have, there are some typical stereotypes. Like I mentioned earlier, when you come to the Gen Z, they'll tell you, oh, these people don't like to work. I'm sure when Mr. Anthony's son told him he's going to start planning parties, I'm sure he was shocked at the beginning, and he was wondering, what is wrong with this new generation? You know, that kind of thing. So, and then you have his generation also, and all these people are in the workplace, and they have to know how they can work together to enhance collaboration and innovation. So what are the stereotypes that we have existing around these different generations that we should learn to break down?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's okay? Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for waiting for this panel session. I will start by reminding us about the history of oil and gas in the world and vis-a-vis Africa. We know oil and gas started far back in 17th century somewhere in America, 1718, and it didn't come to Africa until sometime 1960s. Late 50s and early 60s, that is when oil and gas started. And the very first oil well that was drilled in Nigeria is towards that period. And if you have also studied generation very well, you know we have baby boomers, we have Generation X, Millennial, and Gen Z. And I think there is another one called Gen Alpha now, sir. So when oil and gas came into Africa, we will say that the people that have custody of the knowledge, the technology of everything in oil and gas are the baby boomers and what? The Gen X. Those that were born in 1940s and 1960s. So those people learned this technology in a very hard way. Not what we're having now, that everything is being, digitalized. They go out taking readings manually and everything. And when we grew up, we got to know that even the Nigerian Civil War that was fought sometime early 60s was because of oil. That immediately after the oil, the people that came back to make the oil and gas industry work suffered a lot. It was just recently that people that work in oil and gas started having some good benefits. According to what we were told, that in early days of oil and gas, civil service, people that work in Nigerian civil service were any more than people that work in oil and gas, especially Shell, BP as at that time. So everything in oil and gas was analog. You go to the drilling, the production, everything was analog. But these people were very patient to learn the rudiment. They learned through hardware, and they got the technology, they got the experience. And up till today, we have not been able to phase them out of industry. Because when things happen, they still go look for them. And you see someone that is over 70 years, getting to 80 years, coming into a rig because they were patient enough to learn the technology and everything that has to do with oil drilling, production, refinery, and everything. But fast forward to millennia, where I belong, and generation Z and Alpha. We are very impatient people. Yeah, because they call us Indomie what? Generation. And why they call the baby boomers and the Generation X what? Old school. Those that are old school are the one that has the technology because they pay the price for it. But we that just came into the industry, we just want to get everything because we didn't pass through a lot of rigorous processes to get this knowledge. I remember when I started work, I was working with my supervisor, as at that time was 70-something years. And he would tell me, Victor, if you want to understand this oil and gas, you need to be very patient. That there are things you will never know until opportunity comes for it. For example, if a well is having issue, it's not everything in the world that is going to have issue. There are some things in the world that will never have issue in the next 20, 40 years. But the people that are going to fix this at that time are the people that have the knowledge of how it works. So fast forward, like I said, to our generation, we discovered that there is a gap. There is a knowledge gap between those that have the experience and those that think that because we are tech, savvy, we can turn things around, and we don't want to be patient and wait to work in collaboration with the people that have the idea, the knowledge on how this industry works. So I think the best way for us to advance this, conversation and advance the oil and gas industry in the world is that for us to birth innovation, we need to bring the old and the new together. The old, they have the expertise, they are very patient, but they also have their disadvantages, which we're going to discuss, further. But we need to see how to bring both together. Those that are tech, savvy, those that can manipulate and work on the computers, and those that have the experience to come. And when both of them meet, that is when we can birth more innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yeah. I'll come to you, Etta. He mentioned about how we can bring these people together. But there are times you go to the offices and truly the older people are not ready to teach even the younger ones. They come in and they're already pushing them away. How do we bring them together, and how do we get them to mentor the younger ones? He talked about them knowing so much that you have to even go back and go and bring somebody who has already retired. But they leave and they are not able to pass on that knowledge to the younger ones. How can we bring them together to make sure that when they're leaving or before they leave, those knowledge is passed on to the younger ones through mentorship?
Okay. Thank you very much to the organizers, and thanks for the opportunity to be here to present my own experience. With respect to how we're going to leverage on this multi-generational gap or age limit to be able to, guide our future, innovate our future. I just want to do a bit of recap based on what has been said earlier. There's something that is fundamentally missing, and that's the foundation, right? All this innovation we're talking about, where is the foundation we want to place it on, right? You cannot innovate if there's no foundation. So as Africans, and I speak specifically to the young professionals, I'm an entrepreneur or a technopreneur, if you may. I speak specifically to those who want to venture out and also provide services in this industry. To say we cannot innovate in absentia. I'm coming to your question. We cannot innovate in absentia. We need those processes or those tripods where innovation can stand. And one of them is building capacity, right? If you do not know how to build capacity, or if you don't want to build capacity, I'll speak from an entrepreneurial point of view. You want to compete with the likes of Julia, right? Shlombege. She will come at you with everything in her arsenal. She's very lovely, very adorable, but when it comes to competing, she'll come at you with everything in your arsenal. We're talking about Africans here. We're innovating for Africa. For who? For Africa. Who's going to take over that role is Africans. Who's going to deal with those innovations is African. So you must be ready to build capacity. And you build capacity by doing the first small work or small job or small project effectively, correctly, adding value to your clients in terms of safety, in terms of reserves, in terms of cost addition or cutting costs. You must learn to do that. You will have what you can fall back to. The second level, you must learn to have proper corporate governance. Now, if you want people to partner with you, for innovation, you cannot innovate in absentia if there's no corporate governance. There's nobody who wants to come and invest money with you. There's nobody who wants to partner with you. If I have a company that is myself, Nigerian Limited, no processes, no HR processes, no financial processes, no proper accounting, no recruitment processes, then The foundation is already faulty. And these two elements I've mentioned is what will give you access to finance, access to capital for your project. Because once you go to seek for finances, they will start looking at your processes. They'll look at your capacity, they'll look at your processes before anybody will want to hear you talk about finance. So we must get that at the back of our head, that in all this, our very lovely speak with respect to innovation, we must be ready to have the right processes to enable innovation stand on them. Otherwise, everything will fall as a pack of cards. The experience is abundant in the room. It's a function of what you want to do. James, I knew when you were coming to University of Port Harcourt, then you were in Mobile, yeah, to come and do presentation. Those were, I think, early 2000s or so. You know, I think I was, smarting out of school or whatever. So I knew James. I knew he was a production engineer. I know how many patents you have. I knew when you moved to Aramco. We don't have a personal relationship, but I study you. I knew when you moved to Aramco. I know Oga Ogunkoya in your Schlumberger days, when you were moving all over Africa. So I'm saying this to underscore the fact that, and a lot of you now know Julia, you know the Ghana guys that were here, you know everybody that was here. The experience is abundant in the room. But you must make yourself available to be tutored, to be mentored, right? Because these guys that we want them to transfer their experiences to us all have their schedule, they have their targets, they have their personal lives, family lives, they have the same 24 hours. So you must make it fertile for them to be able to bend over backwards and ensure that you're properly mentored. I was mentored, before I left Shell, I was in Shell for about 14 years, 8 months, effectively as a staff. Prior to then, I'd done a lot of contract work with staff, with Shell. So if I add that, it's another additional 3 years. Prior to then, I started teaching in the university. Prior to that, I worked with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and all. So all this, through this, my career, I had people that mentored me, unbeknownst to them, because I was hungry to say, what do I want to do? When I joined Shell, I wanted to stay there for 5 years. But it wasn't possible. Whatever happened then that kept me till how long I was a different stuff. But I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew that, okay, I needed to go provide services, and I knew the kind of services I was looking out to provide. So the experience is available, but we must be ready to make ourselves presentable. So when you are my mentor, if I pick a mentor like Oga Ogunkoya, for instance, my discussion with him should be purely technical, purely professional, purely on the job. How do I want to improve? What trainings do I need? What other requisite qualifications do I need? Not about my financial issues. So more often than not, yes. So more often than not, when you speak, SP has a mentor-mentee relationship. Yeah. So I had a lot, and I can tell you most of them were super, most of them were not so super, because more often than not, we leave why we are here for the mentorship and we go and focus on other stuff that will not add value. So just to say before I wrap up, we'll come back to read that the experience is abundant, right? In Africa, in Ghana, it's abundant, right? But we must be ready to make ourselves available to be able to latch onto that experience and grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eta. Experience is abundant, and then you will see this in the office as well. But here's the case, like I asked you, somebody needs to be mentored. But there's also that communication challenge. And this is where I come to you, Samuel, as the HR manager. Are companies being deliberate about this? Because there's always that communication challenge between the younger generation and older generation, even if they want to get mentorship. Sometimes approaching the person is an issue, or you approach them and they just, it just ends there. What are some of the main causes of these challenges, and how can some of this be effectively managed or bridged?
Okay. Hello. Okay. So it's interesting that a mentor-mentee relationship, usually we crave for it, right? And you meet young professionals people who are in school, people who are just coming out of school, and they want to be mentored. And it's more like the new cliche. Then we actually get into, let's get the mentorship happening. And then we start having issues because we are not able to stick to the reason for the mentorship. And Etta talked about the fact that when we need to talk about the why we are here, we now veer into things like my financial issues, my next level issues. Yes, if that is part of the reason, and for mentorship, we have a set of things we want to do. We have a laid down program that we want to follow. If we do not do that and we hop and jump, we are not going to get anywhere. Suffice to say that young professionals also, when they come into industry, are too much in a hurry to jump straight to the top and are not ready to study the ropes, learn the intricacies of the job, and then move from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. One wants to jump from from 0 and 100%, and we are there. And I always say that anything that starts big is a monster. All others start small and they grow nicely. But if you start from the top, you are a monster. And once you are a monster, once light comes, the monster diminishes. And so once you get the issues coming to you, you realize that you are hollow. And if you realize all the information, all the messages, all the people who have come in here, multi-generational, we are able to pick from those who have started, who have been 47 years in SPE, telling you that, they've learned the ropes. They didn't just start and get to the top in one day. Now we are talking data science, we are talking AI. They also have to learn. So there's not only mentorship, there's also reverse mentorship, where those who are experienced learn the technology bit, learn the other things that were not available in their time when they were doing the pen to paper. And now we have computers and we have AI and we have data science and we have all those. And so it's important that young professionals, as we are, avail ourselves to study and to learn and to go step by step on the ropes until we become perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. It's good you mentioned technology because I was going to use technology to come to Akosia. So it's good you brought that up. And technology is rapidly advancing daily. And then generally, we have the younger ones like yourself who are easier to jump on the trend. And also, it's easier for you to learn when something new comes in as compared to the older generation. So he also mentioned the reverse mentoring. Is this something you see that is common that can be done? Is there a way the younger ones can also encourage the older one to try out the new things that are coming in order to make the workplace better?
Yeah, thank you, Sheena. So I think this is very possible. However, we as the younger ones, I don't even know if someone called me an old person today, so I'm trying to I'm trying to heal from that. But as a younger professional, what we need to do is to first learn the technology and learn it well. Usually we rush on to it, and then, as someone mentioned earlier, we don't get the fundamentals, the algorithms behind it. So we are just doing it, using them because we have to use them. But if we are to learn it and learn it well, and then learn how to apply them in our area of work, then we are confident enough to go before the older generation to actually say that, okay, we know what we are doing. We are going to give you value out of maybe those things that you've been doing that are just repetitive. So the first thing, learning it well and knowing how to apply it within the organization and the department is very important. Then we move to the next step of applying it to your daily work. You know, in our part of the world where sometimes even approaching the older person is difficult, going to tell the person that it's what you're doing is a bit old school, you have to find a way to do it. So apply it to your area of work. Do it daily. Demonstrate the value that can come out of what you are doing. Then with time, I think the older generation will tag along as well. So for instance, you have maybe some sort of data that is being used manually, always taken manually. You think you know something new or you have a way to make it look better. I think what you do initially, demonstrate it, show the value. Then the next time your boss or the older professional gets to you, you show the boss that, okay, this is something that I've been able to do. This is the value that can come out of it. This is the amount of time that we can save out of it. Then you can pass on. That is when the reverse mentorship comes in. You're able to tell the older person, this is what I've been able to achieve. Then with time, you have the patience as well to pass that knowledge on. It might be difficult to accept in the beginning, but since anybody does not reject anything that brings value, I think with time, they'll be able to tag along as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akosia. That brings me to Fifi. You work at the PC, and PC, we all know, is the government regulator in our industry. So in what ways do you think the government can support through policies or industry regulations? Is there any way, do you think this is something so important that the government can come in ways with policies or regulations to support?
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Sheena. And I want to start by saying that I think the older generation, the younger ones, have really started working together. That is why I'm sitting in the seat of my boss right now. If not, I don't think I'll be sitting here by this time. So I think from the government point of view in terms of regulations and other things, you know, when we are talking about this Gen Z age and all those things, from the government point of view, we also link it to the companies as well. There are companies that have been there for like 100 years, almost 100 years, as was mentioned. There are companies that came like 5 years ago, companies that came 10 years ago, 50 years ago, and all those stuff. So from the regulation point of view, there's something called technology transfer, which informs the company that has been there over years with all this knowledge, technology, skills, and all those stuff, to be able to transfer it to the younger companies that we actually have it. And this program is actually rolling out. It's ongoing currently in the country, as in Ghana. And the commission, from its point of view, is monitoring it because there's reports coming in on a monthly basis or yearly basis. And there's also the visit point from where the PC reps go to visit these companies to find out if truly this company is transferring the knowledge from the older company to the younger generation. And so this is just from the company point of view. So which means when you come to the staff or the professionals within it, there are different training programs which are actually backed by the law that the companies need to set up to support the younger generations. Because sometimes when you visit some companies, people tell you, oh yeah, we are training the young ones, yeah, but you ask the company, the younger ones are like, I've not seen my boss for like 5 years. But the company will report and tell you that, oh yeah, I've been training him, I've been with him every week, every month. And so from the regulatory point of view, that's what the commission does, from the reporting as well as the visiting point, to find out if truly the individuals are being trained. And this goes on from that point. In addition, there are different MOUs that are currently running, Memorandum of Understanding, because we realize that it's not only when the students finish or graduate school, that's when they need to be trained. Training can start from the university stage. So there are different companies that are running these MOUs with the universities in order to help train the students so that even before they complete school, they at least meet a certain standard or they have certain knowledge already in their head before they will start working within the industry. Then lastly, I'll touch on the research and development, which is also another initiative from the Petroleum Commission, which is combining both the old generation and the young generation for them to research together. Because the point is that the challenge that have been there for many years with this old generation will actually be solved by the younger ones. That's one interesting thing you need to know. It's not sometimes, there have been some problems that have been there over 50 years. And those who actually encountered that program or that problem are not there now. But there are a new group of people who are actually going to solve this issue. And those research and development support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fifi. I think, Etta, earlier on you mentioned about getting our fundamentals right, and also you do some visiting, lecturing jobs. So I want to understand how education is key when it comes to laying the foundation. Is it just going back to the university to get education, or as a professional, what are some of the things that can be done to harness professional development across all generations? Because the older ones especially will get somewhere and they tell you, I don't need this training anymore. I'm okay where I am. So how do you make sure that they get developed to get to the point that you need them in order to achieve the goals of the company?
So I think we need to go back to the foundations. What's a university? What's education, basically? Because we have several models, companies have what I call finishing school, where you have a stopgap 1-year program that you gather, quote unquote, the best of the best and train them for another 1 year before pulling them into your operations. And that's okay, but I don't think the longer term sustainability with respect to how you're churning students, from, if we look at it as a factory, as a mill, how we're churning students out. So I think companies should be interested in the curriculum. What's the curriculum? What do we have now as of today? And what's the need of the industry? We've changed from oil companies to oil and gas to energy companies. Now, have we seen the same transition with respect to the curriculum of most universities up until now? So there's a huge gap there. Of course, most companies endow chairs. Shell, where I used to work, endowed a chair in a University of Port Harcourt and other universities around Nigeria. I'm sure they have done that in other universities where they operate, right? But Mr. Ben mentioned earlier something around application. How are we applying the research that comes out of this endowment? There's a gap there. So I've been fortunate to visit a lot of research centers, outside Africa, and I see typically somewhere in Aberdeen where they have the National Decommissioning Center, they have a National Data Center, and they have over 20 industry-based research. And we have over, I think, about the same number of PhD students doing those research. But the difference is those research are being done in conjunction with the end user, such that the results will have a direct effect on the operations of the company. So it's different from doing it for the sake of it. So those students are already being tutored, are already getting the right kind of experience, because there's one experienced person from the industry who has the problem statement, and then the research student is given that problem statement to work, and there's availability of data anyway to do it. So at the end of that, it's being applied. There's a test phase, to that research before maybe the company will now take it and market it and sell it, as the case may be. So that gap still exists. So if we need to look at, we need to modify the way we look at training, for students, taking it from we need to step out a bit from just training people and bringing them and then having our silo finishing programs where we take students for 1 year and try to train them. Shell does it or used to do it. Total does it with IPS in Nigeria now and all that, Institute of Petroleum and Energy Studies now and all that, to a point where it's actually taking place in the university itself, and we bring the application to real-life problems in the industry. So I think that's an area we need to look out for, especially as we're speaking innovation now. Thank you.
Thank you, Eta. You mentioned innovation, and earlier on we had a real good discussion on AI. And Dr. Ekpero, you run a company, and I'm sure you probably have the different generations working in your company as well. So when we bring the conversation that was had earlier on into our multi-generational topic, how has AI transformed or affected the dynamics between the different generations in your workplace, particularly in terms of operation, management, and then any strategic planning? And how can we affect the industry positively?
AI is just coming into the industry, and there is a lot of regulation even going on now in the US on the usage of the AI. And bring it back to my operation at the moment. So what do we do as a company? First of all, that is what I need to explain. So our company is a well intervention company. So we service and maintain wells. And not just that, we are one of the first responders when it comes to blowout. We have a lot of issues in the Nile Delta in Nigeria, where there is a lot of oil theft, vandalisms, and the likes. What is going on there? And whenever there is an issue like that, blowout issue, we are the first company that NNPC and the other operators call on. Presently, we are tackling a lot of wildfire, leaking hydrocarbon due to some of these external interference. So in terms of bringing in AI, I think AI is really going to help in the monitoring of some of these oil, facilities to deter external interference. And not just that, in terms of data analytics and some of that, because the industry is industry of big data. They have a lot of data. So AI is also needed, and I think some other companies are already implementing them in terms of data interpretation and some other things. And there is a lot of, I would like to call it generational drip now that is almost fully automated. And that is when some people say AI is a threat to some people. When you get to some rigs these days, my friend just came back from a rig owned by Saipem in Egypt. He came out and he told me some wonderful, most of the rig before that you see roughneck, roustabout, and most of those jobs are no longer available because everything now is now being automated. And these are where the industries are looking at when it comes to AI. And it's still going to, there is a lot of R&D that is still going on, which we are going to see more. And that is why we are also gathering here to say the older generation and the new generation need to come together so that, because the older generation are the ones that have the data Why the new generation are the one that has the technology. So if the older generations are able to bring out the technologies, the experience and everything that they have, and the new generation now come together with the savvy ability, they will be able to program and, machine learning and some other thing that is going to bring other technology that is going to solve some other problem that the industry is yet to solve. And I also want to use this opportunity to beg some of our veterans that we shouldn't be like Elijah in the Bible. I'm sorry for some of us that are not Christian. Or Elisha in the Bible that died with what? His anointing. That we should try as much as possible to release some of those knowledge and to our younger people because the knowledge is not going to be profitable when it's gone. So we need the knowledge for us to develop more programs, for us to solve more problems. Someone like us, we are also talking to companies like in outside Nigeria, trying to see what can we do to plug a well remotely without getting closer to the fire. If a well is burning with fire, how can we stay from far away and try to see how to run a VR plug or to run an NRV without coming close? These are the things that we as a company are trying to go out for it. But we still need more collaboration, more data. And I also want to talk to our generation, the Gen Z, the Gen X. And so please try as much as possible to be patient and delay your gratification, because some of these are older generation will not just release information to you or if you don't give them all the necessary accolade. So please, we need this data, we need this advancement in the industry so that we can solve most of our problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that would also bring me to Sam. And, I remember when I joined the industry sometime between 2009, 2010, there was this term they were calling the Great Divide. So there were a huge number of very experienced people who were retiring, and then there were a huge number of people who were now being hired into the industry. So there was a huge gap in people who didn't have enough knowledge and experience to tackle the things that were ongoing. What are some of the mechanisms that can be used to make sure that, because he mentioned knowledge transfer. So you as an HR, what are some of the mechanisms you have in place to make sure you have this knowledge transfer? We've mentioned this earlier, but maybe you want to go deeper into that.
Okay, so I would not only say knowledge transfer, but I would say structured knowledge transfer. Because when the knowledge transfer is not structured, it's everywhere. And it doesn't get the actual intention done. And so as organizations, we need to have structured moments where knowledge is transferred from the older generation to the younger generation. Now, the other thing that we could, and definitely documented, now documented through technology. Now, there also would be nice to also have some cross-generational information. Now, cross-generational collaboration between the older folks and the younger folks, where they work on projects together. Once they work on projects together, what happens is that the older generation are able to know the knowledge, attributes, experiences that they have gathered over a long period of time. And guess what? The younger generation are ready not to pick pen and paper this time, but then to record and to take data, to take information in the way they best know how to do. And so I've talked about cross-generational collaboration where you collaborate to work on projects. I've talked about knowledge transfer. I would also want to talk about fora like this, where we meet and we talk about industry information, new trends, new information. We are talking about not only sharing information skills in the way we want it to be.
Thank you so much, Sam. And then, okay. We've seen this room, we've seen how diverse it is when it comes to age-wise, not gender. Gender, we are still not there yet. We still need a lot more to work on that. But the age-wise, you see quite good on the diversity side. But when it comes to management, we still haven't reached that inclusivity, especially I think the service companies are doing much better than when you come to the operator side. You don't find a lot of the younger ones in managerial roles. I don't know whether it's that they feel they are still not ready. How long do they want them to also go too old before they get into management? I have no idea. Maybe you can tell us, what do you think they can do to bring in that inclusivity? We've seen the diversity, but that inclusion of diverse generations across board when it comes to management is still very, very low.
Okay, thank you, Sheena. I think I'll still go back to the younger professionals, our mindset. I think you mentioned it, that are we ready for it? Sometimes it starts from there. How ready are we to go up to that position? And then showing that we are ready is also very important. Once you demonstrate that you are ready, then we can now go to the leadership and the management that we think we are ready. Then what can management do? Creating that environment where people are confident and comfortable that their voices matter and their voices can be heard, so that when they are even given the position, they are confident in that role or what they've been given. It's very important. Creating that environment really fosters inclusivity. So what management can do is to first allow some of these opportunities, whether formal, informal, trainings, is very important. We need to be trained as younger professionals. I always believe that maybe coming from the point of mentorship, everybody once mentored can be able to do as much as the older person is doing. We always say experience is the best teacher, but I don't think it has to be your experience, right? You can learn from the experience of the older person and then come along. So once we create that training, that mentorship for the younger person, I think they can come along. And then that environment, we changing our mindsets that we can do. We are here to take up, we are here to offer that training. And once you get there as a young professional into the place of leadership, you don't also reproduce that parent-child thing that I'm not going to pass this information on down to the people who are below me because there are no jobs. I just got here. So if I teach you, I'm going to lose my job. It's all about changing our mindsets and our culture. And I think it's going to help this inclusion very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to add to that?
Sheena, yes, just to add to that, I think that what industry or what organizations can also do is job rotation and job shadowing, where the role holder is there, but the role holder is holding the hand of someone who is shadowing on their job. Okay. Job rotation where we try to switch around because of the interests that have been expressed by younger folks. And if we are able to do at least shadowing or job rotations, we will reach a certain level of inclusivity that we at least are looking for.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I remember she mentioned something about culture. So I want to bring it to Fifi. At the end of the day, we are talking about Africa. And we know Africa is very drenched in cultural settings and, I'm older than you and the usual talk of, I'm your senior. So when we are talking, you need to keep quiet. The whole age and seniority when it comes to the African setting is something that holds a major impact. Sometimes people bring that mindset even to multinational companies, as long as they're working in Africa, surprisingly. How do you think how can we change this narrative in order to be able to be innovative in our oil industry in Africa? Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Yes. So, in answering this, I mean, I'll touch a bit on what you're saying because, as it's a job shadowing, I remember, I mean, in my recurrent role at the Petroleum Commission, there comes a times where your boss will be going for a meeting, either at the ministry to meet the minister or maybe at the presidency, and they'll just carry you along that, oh, Fifi, just come along, let's go for a meeting. You are not actually going to contribute to the conversation, but I see it as a training platform to prepare you for such meetings or such roles when it's time for you to get there. But as you said, there are some young people, when they get there, they want to talk. But that is not the platform for you to talk. So it's a step-by-step, as has been said all this while. And, you know, I think this culture thing, from my point, I think it's really changing. When years back, when your boss talk and even when they ask, do you have any question?
No.
They don't even say no. You can't even open your mouth to say no. You just do, kind of. I think that attitude or that kind of culture is actually fading out from my point. We're actually moving into a time that these older generations are really welcoming the young ones to teach us and to train us. And as it was said by Eta, we need to avail ourselves because you don't expect, let me say, like Julia that was giving as an example, a country manager to leave whatever he's doing just to come and mentor you because you are below him. But you need to avail yourself and fit within a schedule, a time, so that you should be able to tag you along. Maybe she may be going for a contract, bidding something. You should go like, oh, just come, let's go. When you go there, just sit down, observe what is happening, learn, study the environment. Maybe the next time you will be the one who is going to present or submit a bid for Slomije. So I think now the culture is that the older generation are really open, but it's left for the young ones to actually avail ourselves and to learn from these older generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Fifi. Yes, sure, you can add something.
I also want the younger generation to know that management position is not a chocolate. That especially when it comes to oil and gas operation. Oil and gas operation is a very risky operation. Oil and gas operation is operation at times depend on experience. Experience sometimes is not all about your age. It's all about what you have learned over the years. Yeah. So when they see someone that is able to learn, willing to learn, and has the attitude good enough for management position, you won't even lobby for it. Because those that are upstairs, their eyes are everywhere. They are looking for the best. But some of us that are younger generation, our attitude don't even allow us. We may be very skilled, we may be knowledgeable in what we are doing, but attitude would even allow us to come to the upstairs. Because if we get to the upstairs, there are a lot of information that also need to be sealed. Yeah. But we talked too much. My supervisor went to offshore location with one of the younger engineers, and he just gave his phone. I think he went to bed or so. Gave his phone to the younger engineer to send 1 or 2 messages for him that he went to bed. So he now went and dig deep and saw some information that he want in someone else's phone. He now started screenshotting them, and be sending it to his own phone without taking what? Permission. And he forgot to go and delete it where? In the gallery. So when the man now came back, when he relaxed, he was now going through his gala. He saw that someone has actually went to his what? His privacy and screenshot some information. So how do you want, if that person was to be someone that will recommend you for promotion or for anything, will he do it? No. So attitude sometimes makes we younger generation not to go upstairs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attitude is very important. Eta, you want to share with us any success story about how collaboration between younger and older generation has resulted in breakthrough or led to a breakthrough in any place that you know about? After this, we'll take questions from the audience, please.
Yes, so I'll share a personal story. That's a good enough case study or case story to be shared. You know, so this has to do with when I left Shell to come take up this role as the MDC of Sequest. And we had, first and foremost, our forecast, fell flat. We had a forecast that, okay, when we come in, in the first 3 months, 6 months job, and so therefore, so we'll build our resourcing, our business planning, and 6 months, everything fell flat. Our bond rate was up, our OPEX wasn't there, nothing was happening. Now, my management team and I had to fall back, to more experienced professionals to say, this is the challenge we are having. A group of, I'm a reservoir engineer, and we had a production technologist, a geologist. We had a complete, subsurface team together. We had folks with planning, forecasting, economics, in the team. And we presented our case to some mentors. We said, this is where we are. Nothing is happening. Our business forecast is flat. It's not going on the way we planned. And we need a lifeline, So that was how the idea of servicing marginal field operators came about. To say, why don't we go and look at how we need to take assets? Then we had about 52 marginal field operators that were granted licenses. So why don't you go and look at how to take them to first oil? And this came with referrals for finance, and we sat with very senior experienced colleagues in drilling, in facilities, to design the entire end-to-end first oil project. When I mean end-to-end, from studies, right, to oil in the tank, not just to oil in the tank, to evacuation, to point of sale. So we designed an integrated service around first oil project, a lot of it. We collaborated with a lot of so we collaborated with a lot of companies. We brought in somebody to do, a company to do the wealth of our design. We got in a company to do the workover. We got in a company to complete the well. So we took over from the cleanup phase. So we cleaned the well, we tested the well, we brought our facilities and our early production facilities, the design, engineering, integration, we did all that. We brought the storage vessel, we did the entire production, chemicals, we did the recipe in-house, we did our crude assay in-house, we did everything, and we actually took the company to first oil. So what's important here is that we relied heavily on, we categorized them as consultants then, but they were very senior, experienced engineers. Some we met along our journey in the industry. Some came recommended. So you see that we're able to leverage on the relationship, on their experiences, to be able to deliver. So that's a case study. Again, the experience is in the room. The experience is in the corridors, it's in the industry. How prepared are you ready to, bend over backward and listen and make yourself teachable and tap from that knowledge? It's not free anyway, in our own case. But how prepared are you ready to collaborate with the so there was a bridge. We had people who are very experienced and retired, that we had to bring in. That experience should have gone away if we didn't go out to reach out for it. And till date, we still maintain that structure in our company where we have those very high-level consultants, that are providing, advisory, technical advisory to my organization. So that's a typical example I thought I should share. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good to know. We'll take some questions from the audience. I see a hand at the back there.
Good day, everybody. My name is Wellington. So during the discussion, I had a question I wanted to ask, and that is, where does the place of company system come in? Because a lot of times we've said that the younger ones should come in and pass knowledge to the older ones, technical knowledge to the older ones should come in and pass the knowledge to the younger ones. But I've seen a system where a Gen Z comes into a system and yet who was restricted by the company system that was already set in place. So the question now is, where does company system come in passing this knowledge? Thank you.
All right, thank you. My name is Emmanuel Afari. I would like to ask, whilst the questions were going on and the panelists were answering, you were talking about older generation passing on knowledge to the younger generation, and the younger generation also being available for that. I would like to ask, let's say somebody or a professional, let me put it this way, a student who have graduated from a university, coming into the working field or the industry, having gained theoretical knowledge from the university, willing to contribute, but finds himself in an environment where the older generation are not willing to help, and feels like there is no sense of belonging in that place. What kind of advice will you give to an upcoming professional like that? Thank you.
Okay.
I may not be Gen Z. What is it, Gen Z or Alpha? Or whatever it is.
Definitely.
I just wanted just a quick comment and a question. I find it very strange that you guys think you're special. You're not. We also went through the same thing, where we thought we were special, and then reality hits. Something about the oil and gas industry, where the younger ones feel that I need to get to your place in 1 year. It doesn't happen. I don't know what it is about oil and gas, but because this is a D&I forum, I'm not hearing discussions about women. We have a young lady there, but she's too young, I think. No, yeah, you're young. I'll call you young. Just very quickly, when it comes to women, all my bosses were men. And I really got to where I am through tenacity and the fact that all my male bosses, except for one, saw a lot in me. But do you know who I value the most? Is the one that didn't. Because that's the one I said, I'll show him who does he think he is. You know? What I'm trying to say is, women, and I'm talking to the women, if you want to make it in this industry, you better have balls. Okay? This is not an industry that will come and pamper you and make room for you. You create that room for yourself. You get to that table. I was an ex-country manager for Weatherford, first woman in Weatherford. Julia didn't get there by looking pretty and sweet and everything. So you better, I'm sorry, I'm serious, this is how it is. You better look at the men beside you, if you're working for men, and see how men behave. Just look at them, watch how they navigate. And I'd ask you to take a little bit of that. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality that we live in. Some men don't know how to, or may miss the cues where women are concerned, so the pressure is put on you to be able to raise your hand and say, I am here. Do not be afraid to go and tell them, how did you get to where you got to? Okay? You're lucky there are now women in the industry like Julia who's visible. When some of us were going through this thing, the only woman you saw was maybe, and this is Texas, was maybe the woman, you know, where I was going to buy drinks and whatever at the corner store. And I'm not exaggerating. Somebody was it's a very different animal. In other oil field services, and depending on where you worked, you're the only one. And sometimes the only black one. Okay? So you're noticed, and you have to be 100, 200 times better than your male colleagues. That's another reality. So for people who are in HR, I hope you also take that into account, that women also come with their special needs, and be able to encourage them to get to wherever it is that they need to get to. Thank you.
Okay, so the question about, we're not talking about women. So before we started, we mentioned that when it comes to diversity and inclusion, a lot of times people think about the gender aspect, but there are other several aspects of diversity and inclusion that are not talked about enough that still exist. So today we decided to look at the multi-generational aspect of diversity and inclusion. Yeah. Yeah. DNI. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Things. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You're totally right. I remember when I used to work offshore, sometimes, yeah, I'll be the only one in a room full of men. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Thank you. So Sam, you take the first question that the guy asked, and then you take the second
let me make
one.
a quick comment.
Okay.
A lady told me one time that so she was employed, and the first reality hit her when she wanted to go to the washroom. She realized that there was only a male washroom. There was no female washroom. And this is a company that prided themselves as a very good company that everybody wanted to work in. And so the reality is there. I mean, I also believe that strides have been made by several companies as to making sure that the gender conversation comes to the fore. To run quickly to the question, company systems. First thing you do when you get to any company is to observe and know the company. Please do not rush as a young professional with all the nice hot blood in you to say that I've identified this problem, and this is the solution. Guess what? The people who are there also see and have observed and may have a certain plan. And so first, please try to know the company. And I also add that every company have their own politics. And corporate politics, whether you like it or not, is real. I'm going to say it again. Corporate politics, whether you like it or not, is real. And so you'd be out of school, come from national service, or you are doing your national service, and you think you have all the solutions. Yes, you might have all the solutions, but take your time, bide your time, and then the optics matter. Optics matter. So you don't just get up and you think that you are the one who came out with the first class, you are the MIT, whatever, you are the whoever. Yes, but know also that those who were there before were some of them. If I knew a company that will only employ first-class students, and the least you get there is a second-class upper, and the second-class upper will even have to struggle to get to that company. And this is a company in Ghana here. This is not like outside Ghana. And so don't, she mentioned, don't think you are too special. We are all special. And let us approach companies with that mindset that there are also other special people there like you, and then know the company, study the company. Observation is important before you take those baby steps. You could be the best, but then if you take the first wrong step, you're going to crash. Once you break your leg or you have a fracture, it will take time for you to heal. And guess what? You might not come to 100%, not to talk about flying. Thank you.
Okay, please, quickly.
Okay, let me just share my personal experience. So I got employed in a company. So I got to the company. I saw how, I went to the workshop. I saw how things were messed up. So I had an idea on how to get the workshop right. So I went to design a tool rack, how to keep tools so that we can avoid slip, trip, and fall. So after designing the shoe rack, so just to buttress his point, so something in me told me I need to understand that some problem do not have engineering solution, it has a political solution. So I went to my workshop supervisor because I would have gone to the MD to present, I have access to the MD, to present my solution to tidy up the engineering workshop. But I gone to the workshop supervisor manager and now presented my solution to this warehouse, to the man. I asked him to take it to the MD for approval. So he took it to MD for approval, and the MD approved it and asked him that they should call a vendor to do it immediately. But do you know the shocking part? The MD told the workshop supervisor, this idea is not from you. And all of you has been here. Nobody has presented this idea. It's like this young man we just employed newly is the one that brought this idea. And I'm very convinced that is the one that brought that idea. Can you go and call me the young man? So the workshop supervisor now came and called me that MD is calling you. And I asked him why. He said, this thing you just gave me to go and present. So when we got there, the workshop supervisor now told him that I was the one that designed the tool rack on how to store equipment comfortably. So please, if you are a young professional going into a system, study the system. No matter how talented you are, some problem in the company need political solution. Thank you very much.
So this is to answer the young man's question. The guy who said that the experienced guys are not willing to train, right, to transfer knowledge. That's not true. That's not exactly true. I'll repeat it again. There's experience in the room. Even in this room, there's experience in the room. Are you willing to be trained? I'll give you a typical example. My company, we have a 10-well project, to do stimulation. With our micro emotion breakers for 10 wells, right? And typically, we're supposed to design our tubing volumes and go and compare with the client's tubing volume design, right? Now, there's a guy, there are two guys, very young guys in my organization that keep track of the job design, the logistic plan, the HSC plan, the staff HSC plan, the tools we're going to mobilize call tubing units. They keep track of everything up to date. They run after everybody, run after the client. We're trying to do a clean well on paper session, run after everybody. And the client, reached out to these two guys and said, please come to the office. They came to the office and they shared their own. So we have our own macros and all the assumptions and everything. They shared their own macro with them. They said, this is the tool we are using. Go and use it and do a comparison and come, let's discuss. This is off official limits. They did it, went back. They were able to align. At the end of the day, what would have been a contentious issue, turned out to be a knowledge sharing session between our clients that we are trying to work for and us. They ended up training or schooling our own engineers on how it should be done. So all the gray areas were removed. But at the end of the day, the young men were trained. So they made themselves available. How? They were present. You need to show up. You need to be diligent. Just by updating the tracker and reminding the client that this is where we are. With respect to our timelines and all that, this is where they were running after every other engineer, all the other senior engineers. We had sub-vendors or subcon. They were running after everybody. So it's about attitude. Where do you want to be? There's some guys, I have about 39 real guys on ground. There's some guys that come to work, so it's 7 to 4, 8 to 5 kind of stuff we do. There's some guys that come by 9. I don't necessarily mean you should leave by 10 p.m., but there's some